based in New Jersey,
Mhm.
and it's hot here too. It's not 100 degrees, but we've been hitting 90 consistently since
Mhm.
June, which is hot for New Jersey. We normally only hit 90 for like a week or so in August, and that's kind of it. But no, it's been consistently warm, consistently hot,
Yeah.
which
Well, and as we know, it's the humidity that gets you. And back east, you guys definitely have a little bit more of that than we do out here. So,
for sure. But 90, I
but
don't know, 90 is hot. I don't care whether it's humid or not. It's
it's
still pretty
true.
bad.
That's true. That's true. All right, cool. Well, thanks so much for hopping in, everybody. Again, let me know if the chat is working. Let me say hello to everybody there. Hello, everyone. If you guys are not able to use the chat, then hopefully we can find out somehow here. Maybe raise a hand. But yeah, thanks so much for joining. Let's go ahead here. We'll get kind of the ball rolling on the uh, concept of the webinar, kind of how we came about this conversation. So, um, this actually started well over a year ago. Um, I came across a funny tweet on LinkedIn from Eli Schwartz. Before we start, first of all, this is meant to be a very interactive webinar. So throughout the webinar, if you have questions that pop up or things you want to, ask, if you want to throw in your website for us to review after we're done with the presentation portion and we can workshop it for you, just interact, ask questions. Like we want to make sure that this is a an engaging session where we're all benefiting and learning new things. So um, feel free to throw those things in there. So one of the first office hours webinars we ever did about a year ago was about ROI and SEO. I saw this LinkedIn post from Eli Schwartz, who's a well-respected consultant in the SEO space, and it's "Mom, who's your favorite?" And this is a CMO talking to SEO and paid search. Sweetie, I love you both equally. And then SEO runs off, and then the CMO tells paid, "I love you." It's about no, it's you and by a lot. Those of us who are SEOs definitely know this to be the case. A CMO at a company is happy to spend $500,000 a month on PPC. But then if you ask them to spend $5,000 a month on SEO, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't afford that. It's pretty crazy. So that's kind of what I said here. Like, they spend 500,000 on PPC, then they have a heart attack over the 5,000 monthly spend on SEO, then wonder why they can't get the same ROI on their SEO efforts. And Charles said, hey, I think we should do I said, let's do a webinar about it. So here we are. So let's go ahead and jump to the next slide here. We had a client that came to us, and really why we decided to do this webinar today is because we had a chance to put all of our hypotheses to the test on ROI and SEO for a client. We had a client who came to us looking for help. This was their organic search chart over the last 16 months. You can see for about consistently 12 to 13 months, just downward spiral, getting worse and worse and worse, losing rankings, losing traffic, and most importantly, losing revenue. We started working with them, I think, right about here. Things continued to dip, and then we were able to get some of our changes implemented, and things took off. Not only did they recover the traffic that they had lost before, but they're now performing way better and getting more traffic than ever. So today, that's what we want to talk about. Sorry, what was great about this campaign is that because it was e-commerce and we had the tracking set up well on it, we were able to get very granular on exactly the ROI that we were able to provide and from a revenue perspective. So the 30 days before we started, they were getting around $82,000 per 30 days. The last 30 days, they're getting $184,000 in revenue. So, that's $100,000 of additional monthly revenue from organic search per month, or that's $1.2 million in annual revenue that these guys are getting. So, again, the question that comes back to it for CMOs and everybody's like, well, how do I know if I'm getting ROI from organic search, or does this stuff even still work? Is SEO dead? I mean, Charles and I were at a trade show a week and a half ago, and sure enough, a guy came up, isn't SEO dead? And, chuckled to himself. Uh, I don't know. You tell me, but I feel like it's still alive and well. So Charles, I'll go ahead and kind of turn this over to you. I'll get you the screen share so you can drive. Let's start off because I know a lot of what we did initially and how we got results was through some technical SEO and some of the changes that you made. So give you your chance to provide backdrop there.
Yep, great, thank you. I assume you can see the screen without a problem.
Yep.
Okay, great. So, yeah, so I always like to start off by telling everybody that SEO it's not magic. It's often seen as being very magical, but it's not. SEO is just marketing, but with search engines. So you're still thinking about your marketing channel in the same way. You've got informative, you've got competitive, and you've got kind of buying keywords. That's how you think of it from an SEO point of view, from the standpoint of the keywords or the queries put in. Now, the one thing I will say when everybody's like, "Oh my God, SEO is dead because of AI," really what AI is doing is it's taking up a lot of that informational or awareness at top of the funnel. But that competitive and buying, that's still there. People are still doing those searches, and you can get a spot in that informational awareness part of the funnel. It's just about getting yourself in the AO reviews, getting yourselves in the LMs. And the good news there is to get in there, you just need good SEO typically. You need to make sure that your website still complies to all the same things you would have done with Google. The AI really aren't any different. So one of the questions we always get is like, how do you kind of prove yourself? How do you show the opportunity or prove yourself to a client or to someone else in the organization? I would always do an opportunity chart. I would line up. I would come up with the set of keywords that we want to rank for, that we're hoping to get. I know what traffic they drive, so we have the organic potential on the left-hand side. I'll always put our top five competitors. They aren't necessarily our top five organic competitors, but they're always our top competitors, especially the ones that the C-suite want to beat. So I'll put them in the chart and show here's how much traffic they're getting, and then I'll put ourselves on the chart. And typically, especially if you haven't done any SEO, your little slice of the pie is going to be really, really small, and everyone else is going to be much larger. And it makes it really clear that okay, there's an opportunity here. It makes it very, very crystal clear to the CMOs and the CFOs, what should you be investing in? Is there opportunity here? I also like to do, and this is around rankings. I'll do like a keyword gap, and I'll usually kind of dive into a little bit and say, hey, look, here are the top five competitors. Here's us on the right hand side, and here are some of the important keywords we want to rank for the volume they get, how much people are spending on these, and this is important. So if you can show, look, people are spending a dollar 50, maybe more per click. If we can get ourselves in there organically, you can calculate out what the value is very simply. So if we can be in the number one, two, three position, we can figure out what percentage of the clicks we'll get, what's their average volume, and we can very easily calculate what is the value of that individual ranking. And then you could do that for all your keywords. And then optimization gap. Often folks look at SEO and they think in terms of, oh my God, it's so complicated. I don't know where to go. And I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. It's usually pretty simple. You just have to make it more visual. So what I'll always do is I like to do this optimization gap. This is very, very simplistic. This is just our top five competitors compared to ourselves, compared to the average. And I'm looking at the title tag, the meta description, the page headers. That would be your H1, H2, H3, and the body copy. And then we typically just say, all right, what are the top search queries we want to rank for? And then what are some of the co-occurring terms? So co-occurring terms, just a simple way of saying TF-IDF or LSI or entities, just the words that would naturally show up on a page about this subject. So for example, in this example, we have Amish furniture. What words would normally show up or logically show up? Well, furniture near me or Dutch or Lancaster, something along those lines would naturally show up. And we can look and see what do our competitors have in their title tag, in their meta description, in their body copy? And what do we have? And it makes it very clear, okay, we might have a deficit of on-page optimization, but we don't have to guess. We can just look and see, all right, if everyone uses the term Amish furniture store, guess what? We should probably do that as well. We can also see if we're putting in keywords that other people are not, and maybe the search engines don't really understand what our page is about. They think we're about something different than what we're really about. So, Michael mentioned that we were at a conference and folks would come up and they would say, "Oh, I have this problem with SEO, or I'm not showing up in the search results, or this or that." And I would talk for a few seconds, and I would usually very confidently say, "Yeah, I can help you out." And I realized after saying that a couple times, it sounds almost a little egotistical. It's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I can definitely help you out." And it's like, how can I so confidently know that I can help somebody out? And the secret's in the process. So I look at SEO, there's four pillars in SEO, and I approach them in this angle. There's accessibility, meaning the technical issues. Can the search engines or the AI bots, can they even get to your page and read your content? If they can't, all the content, all the links, all the great CRO in the world is not going to help you if the bots can't even use your page. And then next, it's the page content. It's the relevance. Is this page about what you want it to be about? In the case of Amish furniture, are we mentioning Amish furniture? Are we mentioning the co-occurring words? Um, when you have a page that doesn't show up in the top 100 results or top 50 results in Google, that means you probably have a relevance content. So throwing a bunch of links at it isn't really going to help. It's typically some kind of relevance issue. Google either can't access the page, so maybe it's technical, or when they access the page, they don't understand what the page is about. Then authority, which is where the team with the digital PR and custom link building really helps out. That makes the search engines understand, okay, this page is more important than all the other thousands of pages out there. Why? Because people are linking to it. Other real websites are linking to this page. And then last but not least, one of the things we learned from the Google leak last year was that they are looking at user metrics. They are looking at what you are searching on. And that's interesting in general. With AI, we're going from a very deterministic search result, meaning that you'll rank number one or somebody ranks number three. And whether I'm searching in California or New York or Canada, you'll probably always see basically the same ranking, although there always has been some level of customization. But now it's getting even more deterministic. So it's going from very specific to from I'm sorry, it's going from deterministic to probabilistic, where the AI overview will change every time you do your search, and it will change based on the other searches you've done, and it will change based on what Google knows about you. So this is what's going to make it more challenging in the future, but not impossible, just more challenging. And again, how do you know you're still going to be able to win? It's having the process. It's not just following the new fancy thing of the day or the shiny object. We have to make sure, nope, you always do number one, then do number two, then do number three, then number four. You always follow through. So I'll give you a little sneak peek. Again, I always say SEO, it's not magic, it's math. And really, it's math, it's processes, and it's plans. So when someone comes in, whenever I work with somebody for a project, we'll first always look at their technical, again, just like our pillars show. And then we start looking at the optimization. And here's a simple example of what I do when I do my first pass at a page. I look at the primary optimization, look at the URL slug, the title tag, the meta description. I look at the headings, I look at the page intro, I look at the page structure. I look at the keyword usage. So these aren't a lot of times people think we're doing something very, very technical or very, very, sometimes we are doing things that are very technical, but when you're looking at on-page optimization, the first pass is always typically 50% or 65% of our problems can be solved just in a quick, oh, look at this. We want to rank for Amish furniture, but we don't use it in our title tag, or we aren't mentioning it in any of our H1s, or we don't mention it very much in our content. Hey, that could be a problem. Why would a search engine rank us if we don't use the word ever on the page? Kind of thinking back to that heat map, that chart I showed with the greens and the reds. And then here's another example of, this is the importance of technical SEO. This was it's a local hardware store based in New Jersey. They came to us and said, "Hey, we're having problems. We're not getting traffic." And you can see here and this started way before December, but they came to us in, I think, end of February and said, "We're just not getting any traffic." And we looked at their charts, and on a good day, on like a really good day, they'd get like three, maybe four clicks. But it wasn't unusual at all that they would get just no clicks. They'd have a couple days in a row where no one would go to the website. And so I started looking at the website, and they had a custom CMS system employed. And it's not that custom CMS systems are bad, but often custom CMS systems are designed to do one specific thing and one specific thing very well. And this system did it very well. It managed the inventory and it displayed the inventory of this hardware store, of this local hardware store, very well on the website. It didn't do anything else though, and it definitely didn't do anything for them for SEO. So we got under the hood. We started working with them in, I don't know, maybe early February, mid-February at the most, and by mid-March, they just took off in traffic. And where they were getting, best case scenario, 3 or 4 clicks a day, we got them up to consistently doing anywhere from 40 to 50 clicks a day. There's a little bit of variability because with a hardware store, the owner was explaining to me that weather changes, time of year changes. We actually got them in just in time for their spring. Kind of everybody was interested. Then, as you can see, once spring rolled on, people got less interested. And then as summer started to approach, people got more interested in getting things and doing work around the house. But they've been growing very steadily since then. And that's the importance of good technical SEO and really good on-page SEO. There were also some things we changed in there.
Awesome.
Michael, did you want to take over from here?
Yeah, yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
So, yeah, some of the things that really kind of stood out to me when Charles was talking there, I got a really good example. This is a project I just talked to fairly recently. And when we look at the on-page optimization of the page, Charles talked about that earlier. And this is something Charles talked about all the time. If there's three things that you need to tell Google on the web, it's who you are, what you do, and where you do it. So this was a site that I was looking at where this is their H1 tag. Now, first of all, they have multiple H1 tags, so that's a problem. But there's a lot of
I'm sorry, Michael.
confusion.
I'm sorry, Michael. Sorry to interrupt. I don't think you're sharing your screen. I think we're still looking at
Oh,
my
let me
screen.
try again here. Oh, sorry. Yeah, let's hit this real quick here. One,
I'll
two,
stop the
three.
share.
Oh, there we go. Boom, now we're good. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have this here, right? This is a law firm. It says smart, legal, and matters. And these are all H1 tags, right? So why choose us is another header tag. What our clients are saying. There's really not much here that is telling Google about who they are, what they do, and where they do it. So it's no wonder that when you look at Ahrefs to see what they're ranking for on their homepage, it's pretty much their brand name and nothing else, right? There's not much else non-branded that's happening. They have grants for law firm, probably because grant is in the name of the firm there. So that was a really good shout out by Charles. That sometimes on page and technical SEO, for as hard as it can be, as technical and diving deep into things that you can get, sometimes it's the very simple things of just telling Google who you are, what you do, and where you do it that takes you to the next level. On the project that we were talking about earlier, Charles, I know one of the things that we really noticed here, one of the first things that you found when you're looking at their site was this concept of cost per retrieval. And maybe you can kind of explain to everybody a little bit about what that is, what the situation was that you found on their site, and kind of what that meant for the client. And I know you have a good backstory on cost per retrieval as well, why it became such a big deal.
Yeah. So one of the things I learned, I just folks who don't know my background, I've been in I was in an enterprise SEO for quite a while, actually, for over a decade. I worked with e-commerce sites. Actually, before that, I worked with e-commerce sites. Then I was a SEO manager at Verizon. Then I went over to Fox Corporation for about 4 years, 4.5 years, and was director of SEO for them. So we've seen some really large things. And one of the cool things about working in enterprise is you get to talk to Google every now and again. Now, they didn't give me any real good tips, but I learned some inside baseball things. And one of the things I learned was that Google was looking to save money. This is about a year ago, more like 2 years ago now. I'm thinking about it. Google started laying people off, something they've never done before. So Google's looking to save money, and that's when I realized if Google's looking to save money, they're probably looking to save processing power as well. So one of the things we've learned in the whole Justice Department between the Google leak and the Justice Department, what came out from the Justice Department suit against Google is they do calculate a cost of retrieval. What does it cost their servers to crawl your website? If you think about it, if you've ever been in a large server room, so some of these places that are these some places have these large server rooms and they've got literally dozens if not up to 100 or so servers in this room running. That is expensive to run. It takes a lot of energy. Not only does it take a lot of energy, but you need to now run this AC constantly to keep the room cool, so the room always feels like a meat freezer in there. But you have to do that because if you don't do it, the darn machines are going to overheat. And then obviously there's all this monitoring that has to take place. And so all this stuff gets very, very expensive. So one thing I've noticed and I've learned over the years is that Google's come up with some very simple but clever ways to cut corners and to save themselves time. One of the things they do is they have a cost of retrieval where they will look at your website and say, how much does it cost us to crawl this website? And that was actually the problem on that one hardware store that we looked at as well, where
Yeah.
Google just was spending too much time crawling other resources. Once we realized that, okay, not a problem. Speed up the server speed, get that server response time up. Make sure you don't have downtime. Make sure that you are not feeding Google a bunch of pages you don't want to page bloat, resource bloat. Once you clean those things up, Google will thank you bot for it. And the joke I always like to use when ranking, it's kind of like, you're in your so Michael and I are in the woods and we come across a bear. First thing I do is put my running shoes on. And Michael will be like, "What are you doing? You can't outrun a bear." And I say, "Michael, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you." And that's kind of how it is with Google. I don't have to beat Google. I don't have to outsmart Google. I'm not going to outsmart Google. I just have to make sure that my site or my client site is better than the competitors. It can be retrieved faster. It's better optimized, has better links, has better user metrics. Those four pillars, we just want to make sure we're in a better position than all of our, and we don't have to be perfect. We just have to be a little better every place. And that's all you have to do. Michael, I have some examples if you'd like me to show of some sites. You sent me some sites to take a look at, and I can show you some things we look at, unless you want to do that a little bit later.
Let's do that here in a minute. I'll finish the
Okay.
portion, then we'll chip it over to examples. But yeah, there was one example of a client. So just so you know, if you guys want to know where to kind of get an idea of what Google's crawling, what they're seeing on your site, most people know where to find this. Some people don't. You're gonna go into your Google Search Console. You're gonna go to Settings. Within Settings, there's crawl stats. You can open a report, and this will show you what it is Google's crawling on your website and what it's seeing. So, for example, on this one here, this was a client that we're not doing a technical on yet. But you see, Google's crawling all this like JSON stuff, right? And like Charles, a lot of this very well could be stuff that they don't need to be getting crawled, right? Because it's probably
Yeah.
pages that, yeah.
Unless a resource is required for content rendering, you
Mhm.
don't want search engine looking at it at all. You want to keep the
Yeah.
search engine out of there. And often, sometimes the technical problems are even more basic than this. And I have a good example later I'll show you guys. But sometimes the technical problems aren't even this complicated. Sometimes they're more complicated than this, but they're not, but sometimes the smoking gun is as basic as just looking at the page the way Google would look at the page, and what do you
Yeah.
see? And you can almost immediately say, "Oh, wait a minute." Even a quote unquote untrained eye, someone who doesn't have all the years of SEO experience like I do, but you can look at it and say, "Oh, wait a minute, I can see that's a problem." And I'm going to show you guys a way to see that in a little bit today.
Perfect. All right. So, um, kind of after we get a hold on technical SEO, really what we look into next, and what I start looking into as kind of an off-page specialist, is like what pages are going to benefit the most from backlinks. Where does it make sense to build links to? My general rule of thumb says 50 here. I don't even like typically if I don't see a page ranking in the top 25 results, I will probably assume there's other things that are wrong with it before I start building links. If you're not near page one of Google, way off, then Google's probably not thinking that your page is very relevant to the query. So, first and foremost, just make sure you're actually ranking in the top 30 results or so before you think about link building. You want to look into your tech SEO, your on page, etc. To do this, you can use a few different tools. Ahrefs, SEMrush, or Search Console can show you, what keywords you're ranking for on which pages on your site. My favorite way to kind of get a view of this and to understand everything is to create a pivot table using search data. So what I'll usually do is I'll go into Ahrefs um, and I'll just do one for my website since that one is easy. So basically, you just go in here. You're going to export your keywords, hit export, and then it's going to create a file for you. And then you've got your Excel here, and you'll just go get your keyword data page here, insert, create a pivot table, and then there's some formatting and stuff you have to do. But what's really nice about this is that we've got every page on the website, and then underneath it, we've got all the keywords that these pages rank for. So what I can do is if I'm trying to figure out like which pages on my site do I want to build links for, I can see, okay, I've got some pretty quality link building. I rank number 20 for that right now with my link building services page. Organic link building service, I rank number 23. Custom link building services, I'm number 11. So there's probably some good opportunities here that maybe, number one, I could even do some on-page optimizations for those keywords, but also some link building. For white label link building, I'm number 9 for outsourced link building services. Link building outsourcing, I'm number 9. I've got some really good keywords that are just off the mark. SaaS link building, I rank number 8 right now with my SaaS link building blog article. I'm getting close here. It's like that's really a good situation for backlinks because that's likely what's me setting me apart. Enterprise, I'm number 4. I'm in the top 5. That's awesome. Like, how can I bump this up further? Right? Backlinks are probably a big part of it because, when I look at the keyword, what was it? Enterprise link building. I bet you it's some big dogs that are outranking me. Okay, it's got me number 1 probably because my personalized result, but linkbuilder.io, Search Engine Journal, right? A lot of the Neil Patel, a lot of the usual suspects are up there. So I'm fighting these higher authority sites, and the only way that I can probably get an edge on them is by trying to get some quality backlinks to those pages. So I love this process. If you want me to show you how to make one or just to make one for your website, just ping me in the chat or the Q&A. Or after the webinar, I'll send an email out to everybody. Just reply to me telling me that you want one for your website, and I'll crank these out. I can make them in 2 minutes. So
Hey,
yeah,
Michael,
what we yeah,
Michael, if
go
I can
ahead.
interrupt for just a quick second, if you can go, yeah, thank you. So there's a secondary benefit out of a chart like this. So Michael's exactly right. You can see like, hey, these are the pages I should probably build some links to. But there's another little benefit in here as well. You can look at a keyword. So if you take, let's just take like the enterprise link building page. You rank for a word, but what if you rank like 70 for the word or 80? Google's saying, hey, you don't rank well for this. But then you might notice, and yeah, pick anything. So we have link building tips for an example. Now that might not be the
Yeah,
best keyword for the enterprise link building
yeah,
page, but there's an example where Google's already saying, hey, this page might be relevant for link building tips. So don't fight Google. What do?
yeah,
Go to that page and put a little section, enterprise link building tips. And then
yeah,
just put a little, and that could be an H3, and then you put some enterprise link building tips underneath it. Make sure the word tips is on the page a couple times. Now, suddenly you will see that page will go from like 100 to easily in the top 30.
yeah,
I don't want to say overnight, but very quickly, usually within a couple weeks. So there's two ways you can approach this. You can say, hey, these are good link targets, but also these are things that Google, here's keywords Google's saying, I think you might be relevant for, but we need some confirmation to know that you're relevant for it.
yeah,
And really, typically, all the confirmation ends up being is just put some content on the page that
yeah,
matches that keyword, and you'll usually start ranking. So you
yeah.
can use so when Michael, so if you reach out to Michael and have him do this pivot table for you, there's two ways you can approach it, and there's two ways that you can benefit from it. Just not only the link building, but from the on page as well.
That's awesome. It's a good shout. Even that, like this one actually is probably a good example. E-commerce link building strategies. If I don't already have this in this article, I need to add that section because I rank number 84 for it, and it'd be something really easy I could probably grab some rankings for.
It
So no,
probably
good
as
job.
simple as just putting that exact phrase on the page once, and you'll
Yeah.
see an amazing jump just having the phrase
Yeah.
once on the page.
Absolutely. Great, great. So yeah, so for the client that we're talking about here, I did the same process for them. I identified a couple of pages where they were, you know, page 2 of Google or bottom of page 1 for Google. We built just a few links to each page. And, again, some of it's technical, some of it's link building, but you can see these pages both cook off in terms of the amount of traffic that they were getting over the course of that link building effort, and are now capturing significantly more traffic. So there's huge wins here. The difference of clicks that you'll see from ranking positions 10 to 6 versus positions 5 through 1 is such a huge difference, especially nowadays in the SEO landscape where there's so much real estate being taken up by different search features, AI overviews, ads, everything that exists in there. The higher up you're getting, it gets more and more important to turn those impressions into actual clicks. So yeah, we just started out by building a handful of relevant guest posts. Like that's really what we focused on. Average DA of 49 across those. We did not get hung up on DA thinking every link needs to be DA 60 plus. Look at relevance and engagement first. Those are going to be far more important than just DA and DR. I think the days of trying to game the system by just shooting for a third party metric, Google's getting smarter and smarter at understanding what a link from a certain site means, what that site's expertise is in, and what that shows your topical authority is on. So definitely focus on that relevance first. So started out with some guest posting. Next up, we're gonna try to do some tough stuff for them. So I don't know if you noticed in the last slide, you may have seen in some of these article titles, it's a tough niche that we're working in for this client. But we're going to try to do some digital PR and resource link building. I do have a couple presentations here that I've recently given about digital PR link building. We've seen some like insane stuff lately. One of our projects that we worked on, we were able to land them some coverage in Inc.com by doing a study about how people are using AI in their jobs. Our survey uncovered that 40% of workers use AI without their managers knowing it. And journalists love this and picked it up. So digital PR is still an incredible way to get amazing backlinks. If you want to learn more about that, when I send this slide deck out, I got two different presentations that you can check out on how to do that. My last kind of thing here to kind of summarize everything before we jump into the Q&A portion is that SEO is a team sport. First and foremost is that nothing happens until you act, right? For 12 months, this site was just kind of hovering nowhere, just surviving when it comes to their revenue. Nothing's growing, nothing's changing. They finally decided to take action, brought in some help, and this is what happened because of that. They saw these kinds of results, and this is their weekly revenue here. They went from 16,000 in weekly revenue. This last week, we got them over $50,000 in weekly revenue from organic search. So again, nothing's gonna happen there, but really, not sure, nothing can happen until you act, but really a holistic approach of technical on-page and off-page SEO gives you the best chance of showing Google and LLMs that you're the best answer to the query. I don't think you can brute force your way with just one tactic nowadays. It really is having that well-rounded approach. So let's go ahead and jump in here. We got a few kind of example sites. Charles was mentioning this earlier that we're going to take a look at with the audience here. If you do want us to look at your site, throw it in the chat or throw it in the Q&A. Or if you do have a question, again, throw it in the Q&A and we'll answer your specific questions that you have. But Charles, let's go ahead and pull up some examples and
Yeah,
kind
sure.
of show people how we're identifying and finding potential issues that are holding sites back from a technical SEO perspective.
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen here. All right, everybody should see a world trips up here. So what I have four different sites that I wanted to give different examples of problems and things that you can find on your own sometimes. Say, hey, here's a big problem that we just found. So for example, world trips. So one of the things I said when I was talking earlier is you want to make sure you see your page, how the search engine sees your page. The best way to do that is through Google Search Console. So if you don't have Google Search Console set up yet, you'll definitely want to make sure you verify your site with Google Search Console. And Michael, now I'm thinking about it. It's probably a video resource we should probably just have out there for everybody. Say, here's how you verify yourself with the Google Search Console, and here's the best way of doing it. Because when you do it, you really want to verify your top level domain. You don't want to just verify your www.growresolve.com or something like that. You want to have your top level domain verified. Anyways, let's say you don't have that set up yet, or you have to rely on dev resources who say they're too busy or have put it back 3 weeks or something. How do you see your site without having it verified? There are some tricks. One trick is you can use Google tools like the rich results page. Now, the rich results test is really there to show you do your are you snippet worthy? Do you have the correct schema markup and microdata markup to show up in Google's rich snippet results? That's what this test is for. I love using tools for unintended purposes. And one of the ways I use this tool is to see how does Google see this page? So one of the little links here is view tested page. So I put the URL in there. I clicked start, view test page. It gives me the HTML that it can see. It's a good way of knowing whether Google can see the content on your page. Let's look at a screenshot. Uh-oh. If we look at this screenshot, we have an interstitial pop-up that's popping up and blocking all content. So there's a good chance Google can't see. So all this great content, all this optimized content, Google may or may not be even able to see this. And I say that because we're looking at this interstitial and it's not happening. Now, here's the good news. How do you fix a problem like that? Well, there's lots of ways you can do it. You can set it up so that it doesn't ever appear for Googlebot. That's one way of doing it. My personal favorite way of doing it is I only have pop-ups appear on user interaction. So if someone comes to your site, they've got to do something, click, scroll, anything to get that pop-up to occur. Why do I like that? Because bots don't click. Bots don't scroll. Bots don't do any of those things. So it's perfectly safe to not show it if if the agent coming to your page doesn't do anything, because then it's a bot, and we don't want the bots to see this stuff. So here's the first big problem that I find, is that often folks will be blocking their content from the search engine and not even realizing they're doing it. The second one, so Michael sent me a bunch of URLs to send,
I was
and
gonna
this
say,
actually was a good one.
and Charles, you've
Yeah, sorry.
mentioned multiple times to me about clients where it's their pop-ups are just hampering their site. And so
Yeah.
if you do have pop-ups on your site, definitely like take a look at that, and then there's a lot of different ways that you can work around it, whether it's by having the pop-up come up based on actions from users or some kind of delay. But like you said, I mean, they always seem to trip up Google.
Yeah, the interstitial pop-up definitely has problems. Google looks for these kinds of things. Again, it increases the cost of retrieval. Often folks will come back and say, yeah, but can't Google figure out how to get around that? Yeah, Google can. Google has trillions of pages it has to crawl. Do you want to that little extra work it has to do starts adding up. And so you want to reduce your cost of retrieval as much as possible. The second, so Michael had sent me a whole, we went through a whole list of URLs. We actually had a wrong URL in here. It gave me an error, but this is a good example nonetheless. So this isn't one of the URLs we meant to look at. We'll look at the correct one, but this site is down. You should have monitoring on your site though, to make sure it's not down. Is your site consistently going down in the middle of the night and you don't know about it? You could look at your web logs. If you don't have web logs, get your web logs. Monitor your web logs. Are the search engines getting errors going to your pages? Are they getting 500 errors, meaning server not found? So if your site goes down, that's a big problem for your SEO, and that could be happening, and you don't even realize that's happening. So here was a site, this Monterey company. This was the correct URL to go to. I went to the wrong one initially, but it turned out to be kind of a blessing because they gave a good lesson. So here's a site. They sell custom hats, and there's all kinds of cool things they do. And one of the first things I like to do when I look at a site is I check their robots.txt, see what's going on in here. Are they blocking things they shouldn't block? Are they, what is it blocking? What is it not blocking? Are we defining our sitemaps in here? Yes, they are. So I went and looked at my sitemap and said, oh, great, let me look at this sitemap. There's only three things in here. That's okay. Let me go to the first item in this sitemap. It's a 404 page. So a sitemap is you telling Google, these are the pages on my site. These are the pages on my site I want you to crawl, index, and rank. You do not ever want to have a page in your sitemap that's not a page that works. So if it redirects, if it 404s, you don't want that page in your sitemap because it's only going to hurt you. Now you're feeding Google pages that you don't want it to rank. You don't even want it to crawl. Now Google's wasting time on pages that you don't want it to be spending any time on. So there's a great thing you always want to make sure you do is you want to audit your sitemaps. Audit your sitemaps, make sure they're clean. If they're not, you're sending Google on wild goose chases, and that's no good for your SEO.
That's always something I tell folks. If I see a redirect in a sitemap, I mean, like the easiest way to explain it is your sitemap is like you telling Google, like, hey, this is how I want you to crawl my site. These are important pages. Like, please come visit these pages. And then it's like you're giving it directions to this page and then immediately sending it somewhere else. That's just a poor experience for for the Google bots. So yeah, that's a great shout.
And if you're a site that gets a lot of traffic, your 404 page can actually be an opportunity. There's nothing wrong with this 404 page. I kind of like it. It's branded. It's got a little bit of fun to it. I like the graphics in here, so it's kind of cool. One of the things we did at Verizon years ago, and it actually ended up making us tens of thousands of dollars a year, we merchandise. So for you e-commerce companies out there, merchandise your 404 pages. What do I mean? Put your most profitable or your most popular products on your 404 page. Why? Because you're going to increase the chance of someone going to that and then making their transaction. And we did that. We did that at Verizon. We ended up, again, generated tens of thousands of dollars a year. A simple, I think it was a 20, 30, after all the process, maybe a 1 hour change to do that. And it ended up making us all this extra money because it gave a better user experience. People saw they're at a 404, but they immediately saw the product they were trying to go to, clicked on it, went to it, were able to complete their purchase. You don't get that abandonment that sometimes happens. Another example is Guidewire. So this was a company that site actually looked pretty good, but here the lesson in this one is when you validate anything you do on your website, always try to validate two or three different ways. Let me give you an example. So this site has schema on their site. And we can see that schema has organizational schema, and we can see more information about the organizational schema by scrolling through here, not get too deep in the weeds. This is using the Google tool. Now, if we use the schema.org tool, uh-oh, they get an error. So this is interesting. Google has a process. When they go to your website, they'll actually clean up your code if you make specific small code errors. Now, number one, I think that's probably hurting your overall site score, but they will clean it up a little bit. Why do they clean it up? They don't clean it up to be good. They clean it up because otherwise they'd have all these broken sites. If you think about it, there's a lot of sites out there with simple code problems. But here was an example where this code was actually broken. Google seems to be able to get through it without a problem. The problem is we don't know what are ChatGPT, what are the LLMs, what are all the other bots, what is Bing doing? What are all the other bots doing when they hit this page? Are they able to get past the problem, or are they going to get an error like this tool got? So whenever you make a change in your website, definitely always validate it. But I recommend validating it using like two different tools just to always sanity check yourself. You always want to make sure that you didn't make some silly little mistake and didn't realize you made it there. And then last but not least, here's one Hunter fan. So they sell ceiling fans, obviously enough, maybe, well, maybe not obvious, but they sell ceiling fans. It's an e-commerce store. So one of the biggest issues I find with e-commerce is page bloat. It's a problem with sites in general, but especially with e-commerce stores. If you have someone like Shopify, they have page bloat built into the CMS. A lot of CMSs do, so I'm picking on Shopify, but there's plenty of others that do the same problems. So you can find your page bloat relatively easily. Again, Search Console is the best place to find all this stuff. But even if you don't have Search Console access, you can still typically find page bloat. Here's a simple example. Take your site name. You're going to do a site in Google, you do site colon and then your domain. Now I'm using the root domain. I'm not doing www. Even though they do have www in their name, I'm not using that because I want to know what's going on this domain. And then I say in URL colon, add to cart. How many you do this with almost any e-commerce site, you're going to find just like here, sometimes pages and pages of add to cart pages sitting in Google. Google is clicking on your add to cart button. And as I noticed here, actually this is a subdomain. So it looks like www is okay, but the subdomain is where the problem is. If I didn't have that top level domain, if I didn't check the top level domain, or if I didn't have that verified in Search Console, I might not know there's a problem on another subdomain. If you have a problem on one of your subdomains, it's going to affect the rest of them. Again, this cost of retrieval, this kind of site quality score is something that Google seems to be putting at a domain level. And so here's a simple one, add to cart. Another one that you can do is sort, is Google crawling all your different sort pages. If you have a lot of different facets on your e-commerce site, I would take the keyword for all the different facets and put that in there as well. Is Google crawling all these different facets on your site as well? Have you created what's called a spider trap? What this is going to do is it's going to waste a lot of Google's time. You're going to end up with page bloat. What's the problem with page bloat? The problem with page bloat is twofold. Number one, Google's spending all of its time crawling pages that you don't even want to rank, much less crawl. And now Google's going to spend less time on the pages that you want to crawl. So if you get new links, if you update your on-page optimization, if you fix an interstitial that's blocking Google, Google may not see that for weeks or months because it's wasting all of its time crawling other pages. So this is a big issue I see with a lot of sites, especially e-commerce, is page bloat. You always want to clean up your page bloat as much as possible. And here's a quick and easy way to see, do we have a page bloat problem? And this was actually the first thing I did. I didn't even do my secondary, tertiary searches that I always do. I saw this like, okay, yep, there's not only a page build issue, but there's another subdomain that we need to be aware of on this domain, and that could be a problem. It could cause a problem. It doesn't have to cause a problem. You can have multiple subdomains, but it could cause a problem.
Awesome.
I will
Did you have
pass
another one,
back to you,
Charles?
Michael.
Or yeah,
Oh
perfect.
no,
So
those were the four or five
yeah,
that we looked through. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, Guidewire was one that you took a look at. I found a really specific example for them of kind of opportunity analysis and like how to spot a growth opportunity there. Again, I did the similar process as before. I put together one of these pivot tables and I found this page right here It's a insurance technology FAQ. What is property and casualty insurance? And this ranks for like a bunch of PNC insurance, property and casualty insurance. What is casualty insurance? Some really like good keywords here that could potentially have some, buying potential behind them. Someone who's looking to get property and casualty insurance, they very well might type in this type of a phrase. And you can see they're ranking number 11 here. So one of the first things I looked at was, okay, these are some pretty competitive keywords. We're in the right range where I'd want to see for links. How many links do we have? Right now, we have 3 backlinks. And this is a DR74 website. So it's a pretty authoritative site, but just this page itself is not very well supported. When we look at the backlinks that it does have, it looks like, it's kind of, maybe this is a guest post of some kind, but no authority here. Like most of these links aren't anything to write home about. When we look at the competition, we're seeing
Michael,
very
I'd also point
okay.
out that in that last page, that link, you can see on the right-hand side, the link from the WordPress site from the first one is going through 2 redirects.
Yeah, that's
Every
true.
time you go through a redirect, you lose a little authority. So you don't even, so not only is it on a page that may or may not be relevant, it's a no-follow link and it's going through multiple hops. That means you've lost a lot of authority on that link and it's
Yeah.
nowhere near as helpful as you'd like it to be.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So definitely some missed opportunities there. And then, like I said, we're seeing consistently higher DR sites, but here's a lower domain authority site, and here's another lower domain authority site. Each of those has 7 backlinks pointing to it currently. So again, that is a potential link gap that we're seeing. We have the higher authority site, but our backlinks are lower, and that might mean that our URL itself needs a little bit more support in order to rank. So again, really helpful ways that you can kind of look at and analyze pages on your site where backlinks might make a difference, and potentially for some pretty hefty keywords here. This page is loaded with keywords that are right in the range I would want to see to try to build some backlinks with. So yeah, that's a good example there. I guess really quick from the audience, I haven't seen any questions or websites come in yet. We are kind of winding down here. Did anybody have anything they wanted to throw out? Here we go. So this is from Urvashi. She asks, how are you tying ROI and spend with SEO metrics? What conversion points, key events are you monitoring in GA4? So yeah, for the e-commerce client that we talked about, they have their tracking set up to where all purchases that are made are tracking back to the traffic source. So basically, when I'm in analytics for them, let me show here. We get a pretty straight up revenue from organic search read right here. The key events are being tracked as well. So one of the things you just want to make sure is that with your conversion tags, everything that you've got those key events set up, and from there we can segment that out and track it based on organic search. Again, depends on what your business's goals are. If it's purchases from e-commerce, then you want to track that. If it's leads, then again you'll want to have that lead form thank you page or whatever hooked up to trigger so that we can track the leads that are being driven from organic search. And then
I'm
yeah, go ahead,
so
Charles.
glad this person asked this question, Michael, because this is going to give me a little 2 minute rant I'm going to go on, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So the first thing you always want to make sure you do with your sites, so you have a site and you're like, all right, how do we track things? My first question to everybody always is, what is your attribution model? Is it first touch, last touch? Do you know what your attribution model is? I've worked at companies, I've had clients that have broken attribution models, meaning sometimes some channels are first touch, some channels are last touch, some channels get a cookie, you want to make sure you're very, very clear and everybody's using the same attribution model. Second, you want to understand what your cookies are doing. So, for example, if someone were to click on a PPC ad, and they come to the site, then they leave, and then they either come back directly, they just type the URL in, or they go to Google and they come in through Google. Has that cookie been cleared, or is that cookie still sitting out there? Because if that cookie is still sitting out there, it's going to look like a pay-per-click lead. Maybe it's supposed to be, maybe it's not. If someone say, well, we're first touch attribution, so since PPC brought them in first, that's fine. If you're last touch, then no, it's not what happened. Some people often think they're last touch, but they're really first touch because typically direct and SEO traffic doesn't clear the cookie. And if it doesn't clear the cookie, now you're actually stealing things from your organic. And that's one of the reasons why folks and it isn't as efficient because they're not doing their attribution properly. So always be very clear on what your attribution model is and then understand what's happening to the cookies when people are coming to the website via the different channels. When is it being set? How long does it stay out there? What will change or erase that? What action is required to update or erase that cookie? If it requires another cookie to clear that cookie, that means your direct traffic and your organic traffic is probably not being counted properly and is almost definitely being undercounted.
Awesome. Great
So
advice
that's my
there.
rant. Sorry.
No, love it, man.
It's
Love it. Perfect. Um, there we go. You bet. Thank you so much. That was a great question. Any other questions today? We got a few minutes left here. If anyone has any lingering questions, or if you want us to take a look at your website, feel free to toss that into the chat. I'll allow another minute there. In the meantime, if anybody does want to connect and get some free research, free consultation, you can scan this QR code here. This will let you get in touch with me. I'll sit down, I'll provide you with some free digital PR concepts for your brand. I'll put together a link gap analysis to show you how you stack up against your competitors. So feel free to scan that and love to connect with you. Or if you're interested in that um, pivot table, you can go ahead and scan this and I'll get one over to you. So yeah, go ahead if you want to do that. Um, I haven't seen any more questions come in for the last minute or so here. So I think you must all be satisfied with the answers that you got here today. But thank you all so much for joining. Hopefully you had a good time and got some new insights. Again, SEO is still an incredible way to drive ROI for brands. We're seeing awesome results for clients on a consistent basis. A couple of the examples that we showed today definitely demonstrate that. So yeah, thank you all so much for checking this out. And you'll get a follow-up email from me with a link to the webinar. Charles, thanks for joining us once again.
a pleasure. Thanks for having
All right,
me.
everybody. We'll see y'all later.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.